License and registration, if you even know what that means. The officer's sunglasses didn't hide the curl of his lip. He spat the last word like it tasted dirty. The old man looked up, startled but steady. "Excuse me?" he said. Voice low, calm. I said, "Hands on the wheel." "Now? Don't make me repeat myself, old man." The dashboard cam's red light blinked. So did the pedestrians pausing along the sidewalk. "I wasn't speeding," the man replied. "You pulled?" "Me over at a red light." The officer leaned closer. "You fit the description." "Which is?" "Driving while." He didn't finish. Didn't have to. The old man's fingers didn't tremble. His voice didn't rise. "I'd like to know your name and badge number, officer." The cop smirked. "Are we playing lawyer now?" "No," the man replied. "But I've seen more courtrooms than you've seen sunrises." "Oh, really?" The officer stepped back, unclipping his holster. "Don't try me," he growled. "You people get mouthy, things get messy." A boy across the street raised his phone. Someone whispered, "Record it." A woman hissed, "Don't move, sir." "Just don't move?" "Do you feel threatened?" "By me?" the man asked softly. "You bet I do. I'm 72 years old. Yeah? And I've cuffed grandpas before." The officer reached for the car door. "You open this, you're violating federal code," the man warned. The cop froze half-second. "Just enough. Big words," he muttered. "Too big for a man like you." Silence. Then, "You're scared of education, aren't you?" The old man said quietly. "Scared of what it means when someone like me knows the law better than you do." The cop's grip tightened. "You think you're better than me, huh?" "I don't think anything," the man replied. "But I know when a badge is misused." The officer's radio crackled. "Unit 41, status check?" He ignored it. Slammed the butt of his hand against the roof. "You want to play lawyer? Let's see you talk your way out a resisting charge." That's when the man reached slowly, not for the glove box, not for the dash, but inside his coat. Gasps echoed. Phones raised higher. Even the officer stiffened, then blinked. A black leather wallet, gold trim, and inside a federal ID, United States Supreme Court Justice Henry L. Braxton. The officer started. You've gotta be kidding." "I rarely joke," said the old man. "Especially not when I'm the one writing precedent." Silence dropped like a gavel. Forks froze mid-bite inside the nearby diner window. The woman across the street gasped. "Wait, he's—" the boy whispered. "That's him. I saw him on C-SPAN last week." The cop stepped back. Then back. Again. "Look, I didn't know. That I was a citizen?" The man asked. "That I had rights? Or that I wore this skin and sat on the highest bench in the country?" Sweat prickled the cop's neck. "Sir, you just proved why your badge is dangerous," Justice Braxton said quietly. "And why do so many young men never live to show their credentials?" Backup arrived. Another cruiser. A higher-ranking officer stepped out, already tense. "What's the situation?" The first officer paled. Minor confusion." The judge handed his ID to the new arrival. The sergeant's eyes widened. He snapped to attention. "Sir, I'm so sorry, Your Honor." The original cop turned red. "You're in serious trouble," the sergeant muttered to him, but the judge shook his head. "No, let him speak." "What?" "Let him finish what he started. Let him say what he really thinks." While the camera is still on, he turned toward the growing crowd. "I want everyone to hear how some people speak to the very justice they claim to uphold." A long pause. Then Justice Braxton opened his door, slowly, deliberately, stood tall, straightened his tie, and looked the officer dead in the eye. "Now," he said, "would you like to continue your traffic stop?" "I asked you a question," Braxton said. Would you like to continue? Your traffic stop? The officer shifted, weight uneven, suddenly aware of the dozens of eyes watching. His mouth opened, then closed. No words. Just the silence of a man who'd already lost but didn't know how to admit it. Sergeant? The judge said calmly. The higher-ranking officer stepped forward, stiff. Sir, we can handle this from here. I deeply apologize. Did I ask for an apology? Braxton's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Or did I ask for accountability? The younger officer, his nameplate now visible. M. Turner still hadn't moved. Why'd you stop me, Officer Turner? Braxton asked again, slower. Turner's eyes darted. You had a broken taillight. Braxton didn't blink. You said I fit a description. That too. I see. First it was my driving. Then it was how I looked. That's not what I meant. Then clarify, please. Everyone here. For the cameras. For your sergeant. For the public. What did you mean? The sergeant whispered something under his breath. Justice Braxton continued, calm and cutting. See, I've argued cases at the federal level for 35 years. You think this is my first time being profiled? You think I didn't earn this calm? Murmurs. From the crowd, I've been pulled over while wearing my robe. I've been followed inside courthouses. I've had clerks ask me where my lawyer was. But this, he gestured to the officer, this is what happens when power goes unchecked. Officer Turner finally spoke. Look, I was just doing my job. No, Braxton interrupted. You were avoiding your job. The job is to protect, not to provoke. The job is to assess, not assume. The job is to know the law, not twist it to fit your fear. The sergeant looked miserable. Sir, I'll file a full report immediately. We'll launch an internal... Sergeant, Braxton said. I'm not interested in theater. I want to hear from him. Turner looked like he might pass out. You're not the first cop to pull me over, Braxton said. But you might be the first who gets to walk away with a lesson. Turner shifted. What lesson? Braxton turned toward the growing crowd, then back. His voice softened, just a fraction. That fear doesn't grant authority. That uniform doesn't erase bias. That every time you see a black man in a car, you don't need your hand on your gun. Gasps. Someone clapped once quick, nervous. Braxton raised his hand. No applause. Not yet. He still hasn't answered. Turner licked his lips. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did, Braxton cut in. That's the point. You did exactly what you were trained and allowed to do. You saw skin, not a seatbelt. You saw age, not credentials. You saw a threat, not a Supreme Court. Justice. Silence blanketed the street. Then Braxton added, and if I hadn't shown you this? He held up the ID again. I'd be face down on that pavement. Or worse. A long pause. Then, you're right, Turner said quietly. Everyone froze. The sergeant's head turned sharply. Turner swallowed hard. You're right. I saw what I wanted to see. And I thought I had power because no one would stop me. Braxton didn't nod. Didn't flinch. And you still might. You'll probably keep your badge, your pension, your gun. But what you won't keep after today is the illusion that no one is watching. The officer looked down, quiet. Braxton took a breath. I wasn't going to file a complaint. Everyone turned. But now I will, he said, because this moment should be documented. For the next driver, for the next old man in a clean car, for the next time you think no one matters until they flash a badge. He walked past both officers, calm, upright. The crowd parted for him like a tide. He opened his door, paused and looked over his shoulder. You wanted to see my ID, he said. Now I've seen yours. This man didn't raise his voice once, he just raised the truth. That caption appeared beneath the now viral clip, a 12-minute video. No edits, no filters. Just one traffic stop and a country watching it. Began on a small Instagram account. Then Reddit got it. Then the evening news. Then national syndicates. The video froze on one still. Justice Henry Braxton holding up his Supreme Court ID while Officer Turner stood dumbfounded beside him. Every headline echoed the same question. How does this still happen to someone that powerful? Then the second wave came. What about those who don't carry federal IDs? Across town, in a high school civics class, "Mr. Haynes, that's the guy from your lecture, right?" "Yeah," the teacher said, stunned. "That's him." "Wait, he?" Argued Brown versus Lexington, right? "Among many others," Haynes replied. He rewrote how public universities handle racial bias. That man changed the law and still got profiled like a nobody. Silence. A student raised her hand. "Can I change my essay? I want to write about this." At police headquarters, the mood was different. "Turner's name is everywhere," the captain said, jaw clenched. "And Braxton?" "Untouchable," the lieutenant replied. "He's not just a judge. He's a damn symbol now." The captain rubbed his temples. "Who the hell gave him that stop?" No one answered. An officer finally muttered, "The rookie squad's been using those pattern patrol codes again." The captain's voice dropped to a growl. "Meaning?" "Stop based on behavioral suspicion in high-risk zones." Translation? "Black neighborhoods, nice cars." The captain slammed his folder shut. Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, in a Washington, D.C. boardroom, "Henry, are you all right?" Braxton looked up from his tea. His colleagues, justices, attorneys, former clerks sat quietly around him. "I've been pulled over before," he said. "But this time, I wasn't just pulled over. This time, the world saw it." An older white judge leaned in. "I have to ask, why didn't you tell him who you were right away?" Braxton stirred his cup once, then again. "That's what they never understand," he said. "If I have to announce my humanity for it to be respected, then I never really had it to begin with." No one spoke. He continued, quieter now. "I needed him to show who he was, on camera, in front of a crowd. Before the badge. Before the title. Before the shield of reputation could interrupt his reflex." The hashtag surged. Hashtag Justice Braxton, hashtag not just a bot, GE, hashtag pulled over power within 2 days. Someone uncovered a pattern. Officer Turner had 3 prior complaints. 2 dismissed. 1 pending. All involved black men over 50. All involved traffic stops without cause. The city released a vague statement. "We are reviewing the footage and will proceed according to department protocol." But the crowd was already gathering. Outside City Hall. Outside the courthouse. Outside Turner's precinct. Not angry. Not violent. Just ... watching ... holding up signs like, "He's a justice. But we're not powerless." What if he didn't have that badge? Being calm shouldn't be what saves you. At a cafe across from the courthouse, a young woman placed her coffee beside her laptop and hit upload. Her video opened with her voice. "My father was pulled over. For having an old license plate, he died in handcuffs." No camera, no justice. She paused. Justice Braxton, he survived. Not because he was quiet, but because the world finally stayed loud. In a university law class, a student stood and asked, "If even a Supreme Court judge can be targeted, then where do we begin?" The professor looked up slowly. "With the question you just asked," she said, "and with the people who watched that video and decided it wasn't enough to just share it." Braxton sat at his desk as night fell. He hadn't turned on the TV. He didn't check the news. He didn't need to. He knew what was coming. The phone calls, the interviews, the invitations to speak, to lecture, to comment. But he didn't. Want the spotlight? He wanted the mirror held up to assist him. And this time, it finally cracked. The mayor's voice was tight. Controlled rage dressed in a navy suit. We need to calm this storm before it swallows the entire city. The police commissioner didn't respond. Across the long marble table, a media advisor clicked through a presentation. Slide after slide. Protest screenshots, national headlines, hashtag Justice Braxton trending in 12 countries. Double quote, sir, this has outgrown local damage control, she said. We're in federal territory now. D.C. is watching. Civil rights attorneys are circling like hawks. Then let them circle, the mayor snapped. This judge thinks he's Gandhi with a gavel. We need to remind people that our officers are under attack too. The commissioner finally spoke. With respect, Your Honor, maybe he was the one under attack. Silence. Then the mayor leaned in. I'm not asking you to like the optics. I'm asking you to fix them. At Precinct 47, Turner sat alone in the locker room. His locker had been tagged. You good? Written in Sharpie, he WSN single quotes T.2 internal affairs officers had already taken his statement. 3 lawyers had called. The union rep had told him not to say anything on camera, but his face was everywhere now. And worse, so was his voice. You people get mouthy. It had looped over 5 million times by now. Meanwhile, inside a dim-lit conference room at Police Union HQ. Here's the play, said the spokesman. We release his record, subtly, not a full leak, just enough. A lawyer raised an eyebrow. The judge's record? The spokesman nodded. Everyone's got something. Student protest in the 70s, parking tickets. A photo with Malcolm. X's nephew. Something to muddy the shine. And Turner? We clean him up. Family man, hard-working, overwhelmed in the moment, the usual. Another voice chimed in. Push the he didn't know who he was angle. Make it about confusion, not bias. The room fell quiet for a second. Then someone added, let's drop both stories. Let the public decide. Justice Braxton watched it all unfold in silence. The first story hit online just before dinner. Justice Braxton's radical youth. Was he always this defiant? Underneath, a black and white photo. Him at 19, fist raised. The second followed hours later. Officer Turner, decorated serviceman, father of 4, victim of a viral mob. Braxton closed the laptop without a word. He didn't need to respond. He'd learned long ago, when power speaks too loudly, truth whispers louder. But the legal walls were already forming. The State Bar issued a statement. We remind the public that civil servants are due respect and context. Translation? Don't expect action anytime soon. Turner's lawyers filed a privacy violation claim against the citizen who filmed the stop. The city threatened fines for unauthorized recording of law enforcement in a public setting. And rumors swirled that Braxton's speaking invitation at Howard University had been postponed indefinitely. In the newsroom of Channel 9, a junior producer whispered, "Are we really running this?" Her editor shrugged. "Balance, right? But one side's the truth." He turned to her slowly. "One side always feels like the truth. Our job is to show both." The next night, the headline aired, "Public divided over Braxton stop, hero or hype?" At a local church gathering, a retired professor stood before the community. He held up a folder, quietly. "This," he said, "is every ruling Justice Braxton has written in the last 20 years. He said it on the podium, thick, worn. This," he continued, "is how they treat a man who's already changed the country without ever raising his voice." People murmured. Some clapped. Others nodded through tears. And if he gets slandered this easily, what chance do we have? Outside Braxton's home, A note had been slipped under the gate. Neat handwriting. Folded 3 times. It read, "They're trying to drown you with mud. But, sir, even dirt turns to stone when you stand still long enough." Braxton read it twice. Then, for the first time that day, he smiled. Not wide, not proud. Just steady. Because he knew this wasn't the climax. It was just the start of their panic. "No cameras in my court," Braxton said. The bailiff nodded. "Already turned 3 away this morning, sir." Braxton adjusted his robe, not looking up. Let them chase noise. "We'll stick to signal." That morning, he took his seat behind the bench, just like always. No spotlight, no press release, no statement. But when the courtroom doors opened, every seat was full. Not just lawyers and clerks, students, community leaders, bus drivers, judges, people who had never even been inside a courtroom before. They didn't come for justice. They came to watch dignity win. The case was nothing special on paper. A wrongful termination hearing involving a school janitor. But Braxton handled it like it was the Constitution itself. No speeches, no emotion. Just precise questions, clear language, surgical logic. What was the plaintiff's attendance record prior to dismissal? Were termination protocols followed exactly as outlined in the district's handbook? Can the witness define insubordination as it appears in Contract Clause 9b without adding interpretation? Each question sliced the defense open without raising the temperature a single degree. The defendant's lawyer stumbled over a reply. Braxton didn't blink. Someone in the crowd whispered, "He's not even trying to be flashy," another answered. "He never does. That's why it works." By the lunch break, the gallery had doubled. Reporters sat without their cameras, scribbling notes. 3 law students live-streamed on mute. The janitor's daughter clutched her mom's hand with both of hers. And Braxton? He sipped water, reviewed notes. Returned without fanfare. But the message had already taken root. This man didn't need to defend himself with words. He defended the law. Across town, the mayor's office scrambled. "He's flipping the entire narrative," the Combs director muttered. "He's not even talking." The mayor snapped. "That's the problem," someone else said. "He's showing what real power looks like. Calm, useful, public." By 3 p.m., the ruling was handed down in favor of the plaintiff. Immediate reinstatement, full back pay, plus emotional distress damages. The janitor burst into tears. Her daughter sobbed into her hoodie. The defense lawyer just stared at the floor. "And Braxton?" he said. "Court adjourned." Then stood, walked out. No smile. No wave. Just a man doing his job so well that lies couldn't cling to him. Outside the courthouse, a quiet crowd had gathered. No shouting. No chants. Just signs. Justice isn't loud. Justice is lasting. He didn't fight back. He stood still. Power isn't in the badge. It's in the bench. That evening, Braxton's ruling trended under a new hashtag. Hashtag Quiet Power. A clip surfaced. Grainy cell phone footage from the gallery. It captured the moment the janitor cried, and Braxton simply nodded, handed her the ruling, and walked out. No drama. No viral speech. Just a full-circle moment wrapped in pure control. The internet responded. He just saved her life like it was routine. This man isn't performing. He's practicing justice. He doesn't need to win the media war. He's winning in court. Meanwhile, Officer Turner was placed on paid leave. An internal memo leaked. The city would not pursue formal disciplinary action until the public attention died down. The leak backfired. Petitions doubled overnight. Over 300,000 signatures in a single day. Then the local bar association issued a statement short, sharp. Justice Braxton's record speaks louder than any broadcast. That night, Braxton sat at his desk. Not in chambers. At home. Alone, he flipped through the letter the janitor had given him handwritten, shaky cursive. They were going to erase me. But today, someone powerful finally looked me in the eye. Thank you for not blinking. He closed the letter, folded it neatly, placed it in his drawer next to another older note, one from a law clerk. Written 15 years ago. You taught me how not to yell, even when the world screams lies at your name. He leaned back in the chair. The headlines would swirl. The noise would return, but today, his silence had done more than any microphone ever could. The setting was supposed to be quiet, a private roundtable. Closed doors. No press. Just a reconciliation dialogue arranged by the mayor's office meant to cool things down. Justice Braxton arrived 5 minutes early. Alone. No staff. No advisors. Just his casebook and silence. He sat at the table, waited, open posture, hands folded. The room was half wood-paneled, half theater. One-way glass to the side. 2 mics on the table, muted. Then the door opened. In walked Deputy Chief Alan Reddick, decorated, press-polished, and furious. You know this shouldn't be happening, he said, skipping introductions. Braxton didn't flinch. On that we agree. You should have put this thing to bed a week ago. This thing? Braxton asked. This circus. The videos. The protests. You let it spiral. Braxton raised an eyebrow. I let a video of me being profiled go viral? You know what I mean. No, Braxton replied. I really don't. Reddick sat, tossed a folder across the table. It landed sharply. We did our homework. You were arrested in 1971, right? Braxton didn't look at the file. You stood on a car and shouted "resist" during a campus protest. You want that in tomorrow's headlines? Braxton slowly reached for the folder, opened it, glanced at the yellowed police report inside. He smiled, thin and tired. Thank you for reminding me how far we haven't come. Reddick leaned forward. You want to be a hero? Fine, but don't pretend like you didn't play this for the cameras. I didn't call a press conference. You didn't need to. Your silence was the conference. A long pause, then Braxton asked, Is that what's bothering you? That I didn't rage? That I didn't swing back? That I didn't cry on cue for the public? You played it perfectly, Reddick snapped. You let the whole city burn while you sat like a monk. Braxton's tone dropped, sharpened. You're not mad at what I said. You're mad at what I didn't. Another pause. Because now, Braxton added, people are asking what you've been silent about. Reddick stood. This doesn't end well for you. You might think the public's on your side now, but give it time. People forget. Systems recover. Braxton stood and for the first time since the stop, he did raise his voice, just once. I don't need the public to remember me, he said. I need them to remember you. Your silence, your threats, the way your badge trembled in front of a gavel. Reddick's jaw tightened. You're playing with fire, Judge. No, Braxton replied. I am the fire. You just didn't see it until the flames reached your walls. The door opened. Neither of them had touched it. A young woman stood in the doorway, nervous. Sir, Justice Braxton. Deputy Chief, you need to see this. She handed them her phone. A live broadcast. The mayor, flanked by reporters, reading a statement. We are suspending Officer Turner without pay, pending further investigation. The cameras flashed. And we are forming a civilian review board effective immediately. The room froze. Reddick stared at the phone. He did it without me? Braxton handed the phone back. Calm again, I told you. This was never about me. Outside, the press had already gathered. They weren't there for Braxton. They weren't there for Turner. They were there because something had finally cracked and everyone wanted to know if it would hold. Braxton walked past them in silence. A reporter called out, "Justice Braxton, do you have any comment on today's decision?" He stopped, turned, then said evenly, "I said nothing when I was pulled over. I said nothing when I was smeared. And I'll say almost nothing now except this. Silence is not weakness, it's restraint. And restraint is what justice should look like." Then he walked away. The sound of shutters clicking followed like footsteps. Later that night, a leaked recording from inside the round table surfaced online. The entire confrontation. Reddick's folder toss. Braxton's single, sharp line. I'm the fire. That line echoed across millions of screens within hours. T-shirts, hashtags, memes. He didn't shout. He struck. You can't beat a man who won't play your game. Hashtag I am the fire. The city didn't just hear him. This time, it felt him. The invitation came in a plain white envelope. No press seal. No flashy emblem. Just a handwritten name, Justice Henry L. Braxton inside, a card. Heavy stock. Simple wording. You are cordially invited to the 14th Annual Civic Integrity Awards, honoring those who uphold public trust through action, restraint, and unwavering courage. He didn't plan to attend. Braxton had never been one for ceremonies, especially not ones handed out after bruises were already visible. But something about the simplicity of the invite sat with him. No ask. No agenda. Just a seat at a table. He arrived late. Quiet, sat in the back. Near the doors, he wore no robe. No flag pin. Just a dark gray suit and the same calm he'd carried since the day he was profiled. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers. Judges, mayors, officers in dress blues, media in tuxes. Speeches already underway. He expected the usual. He didn't expect what happened next. The host stepped up to the podium, clearing her throat. Tonight's final award, she said, wasn't planned. A ripple moved across the tables. In fact, the recipient didn't accept it. He didn't even know we were giving it. Braxton looked up. Only slightly, she continued. But sometimes a man stands so still, so powerfully, the whole system has to adjust around him. Whispers now. Heads turning. We watched a video, she said. But more importantly, we watched a man stay composed while being challenged. Lead to, threatened, and still chose to let the truth speak louder than rage. She paused, steady. Justice Braxton, would you please come to the stage? The entire room turned. He didn't move at first. He didn't blink. Didn't adjust his cuffs. Just inhaled once. Then rose. The applause began softly, then grew, then surged. The same officers who had remained silent for weeks stood up. A lieutenant placed his hat over his heart. A judge tapped her hand against the table until the entire row joined. He walked slowly to the front. No smile, no swagger, just a presence. The host extended a plaque-etched steel, no gold, no flair, for quiet courage in the face of loud injustice. He didn't take the mic. He took a breath, then said simply, "Not long ago, someone told me silence is weakness, that silence lets injustice win. I disagree. Silence is discipline. Silence is how you hear the world trying to correct itself." He held the plaque up briefly. Not for the cameras. For the girl in the kitchen uniform at the back. For the black security guard by the door. For the people whose names would never trend. Then he said, "But let me be clear. The only reason my silence worked is because you all finally stopped ignoring the noise." He stepped down. The headlines the next morning read, "A standing ovation for the man who never asked for one. Justice Braxton honored for quiet strength. Police leadership attends ceremony. Some remain seated." That last headline included a clip, a wide shot of the ballroom. Dozens of people standing, cheering, and one table that didn't move. 3 members of the city's internal review board, 2 officers who had supported Turner's reinstatement, still, frozen, silent. The camera lingered. That still frame told more than any speech. In classrooms, teachers showed the video. In churches, pastors quoted Braxton's speech. In law schools, professors paused lectures just to replay his final words. But the biggest shift? It came from within the very walls Braxton walked every day. A memo went out from the state judiciary. Effective. Immediately, all judicial training will include racial bias modules. Designed and approved by Justice Braxton. He didn't lobby for it. He didn't push it through. The system offered it to him. Not as charity. As correction. Outside his chambers, someone taped a handwritten note to the door. The handwriting was messy. Probably a child. It read, "My dad says you didn't shout because you already knew you were right. I want to be like that." He left it up. Didn't laminate it. Didn't hide it behind glass. Just kept it there. Visible. Real. Because that was the point. He didn't win through noise. He won through nerve. And now the very people who doubted him were the ones quoting him. It started with a textbook. A publishing house quietly revised its new high school civics edition. Chapter 12. Landmark Judges in American History. They added a name. Just one. Justice Henry L. Braxton. No bold print. No sidebar. Just a clean section nestled between Thurgood Marshall and Sandra Day O'Connor. The passage ended with ... and though he never raised his voice, his silence forced a nation to listen. 3 days later, the Academy for Civic Leadership launched a new annual scholarship, the Braxton Fellowship for Judicial Integrity. The criteria? Not grades, not test scores. Just a single essay. Describe a moment when restraint became more powerful than reaction. The applications flooded in, and then came the ripple inside the police departments. At first, it was optics. Publicly shared photos of officers reading The Art of Listening. Police captains quoting Braxton in staff meetings. One precinct even painted a mural, a single raised ID card against a backdrop of silence, but deeper changes followed. Body cam footage was no longer reviewed by peers, but by a joint civilian panel. Training modules restructured their scenarios. One required cadets to pause 10 seconds before speaking at a traffic stop and to listen before assuming. They called it the Braxton Pause. Not everyone embraced the wave. A commentator on a national morning show grumbled, "So now silence is the new heroism? Since one is doing nothing a cause for celebration?" The co-host replied, "He didn't do nothing. He did everything right. That's what makes it louder." At a law school in Detroit, a student stood during open debate. "My dad was arrested for talking back. He didn't yell. He just talked. They said it was aggressive." She held up a copy of a court opinion authored by Braxton. "This man reminded me that calm isn't submission, it's strategy. And it scares the hell out of power." One morning, Braxton arrived to find something new on his office wall. A quote, framed neatly by his clerks. He didn't shout. He struck. Anonymous internet commenter. He laughed. First time in weeks. Not because of the words, but because somewhere, someone understood exactly how he fought. In the governor's office, aides passed around a draft for an executive order. "Let's call it the Braxton Protocol," one said. "No more traffic stops without cause. No vague suspicion of intent. Full transparency required for every stop involving an unarmed citizen." The governor hesitated. "We push. This too hard, the unions will revolt." Someone countered. "We don't, the public will." A long silence, then a nod. "File it." Meanwhile, the city's media, once hesitant, changed tone entirely. Front page editorial. The judge who made silence a weapon. A local anchor closed her segment with, "Tonight, a man reminded us that real power doesn't scream, it waits. And when it speaks, the room listens." The city began leaning into the shift. Restaurants displayed Braxton Code signs at the door. Respect. Listen. No assumptions. Community centers ran workshops. De-escalation. Dignity and the law. And at the downtown museum, an entire hallway. Exhibit opened. Witness. The day calm beat power, with looping footage of the traffic stop. Paused precisely when Braxton lifted his ID. Caption. This is where history turned. But the most telling ripple came from the courtroom down the hall. A young black public defender, just 2 years out of law school, stood before a judge. Confident, steady. The prosecution objected mid-sentence. Objection. Counsel is editorializing. The judge started to agree, but the young lawyer raised a hand gently. "I'm not editorializing, Your Honor," she said. "I'm doing what Justice Braxton taught us, speaking just enough to be heard and never more than needed." The courtroom fell quiet. The objection was overruled. Later that week, Braxton sat quietly on a bench outside City Hall. No entourage. No noise. A stranger sat beside him. Young man, early 20s. Hoodie, cracked phone screen, cautious energy. "Sir," he said. Braxton turned, nodded. "I just wanted to say, I used to think staying calm made you weak, made you a target." He swallowed. "But now I see it makes you a mirror, and they don't like what they see in it." Braxton didn't speak. He just reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded card, wrote 3 words on it, "Keep the mirror," then handed it to the man, and watched the ripple continue. The email went out at 2:17 a.m. No sender name, no signature. Just a file. Subject line, Braxton's past classified. By dawn, it had reached every news outlet in the city. Inside, a scanned memo from 1986. A black mark on Braxton's early judicial record. A sealed ethics complaint dismissed but never erased. Allegations of inappropriate advocacy during his time as a circuit judge. No ruling, no admission, no guilt. Just ink, enough to stain headlines. By morning, the articles began. Did Justice Braxton once break judicial code? The silence now feels strategic. Still a hero or just a better player? News anchors treaded carefully. Pundits DIDN single quotes T.1 panelist leaned in. "Let's not forget, he was arrested as a student. Now we learn this? The man's got a history of bending rules while wearing robes." The public didn't know what to believe. Some hesitated. Others doubled down. But one question echoed everywhere. Why now? Braxton sat at his desk. Unmoved. He had known this day would come. He had known silence frightens the desperate. And the desperate always dig. At City Hall, the mayor paced. "I thought we were past this." His advisor shook her head. Old guard wasn't done. They just waited until he stood too tall to ignore. Meanwhile, inside the police union's closed meeting, someone finally cracked. A junior staffer, young, nervous. "I can't be part of this anymore," she said. Heads turned. She held up her phone. "This smear campaign? It was orchestrated. The leak came from here. The file was requested 3 weeks ago before Braxton's award night." Silence. Gasps. A board member whispered, "Do you realize what you've done?" She nodded. "Yeah, I stopped lying." She dropped her badge on the table and walked out. That afternoon, Justice Braxton released a statement. 4 sentences. File in question was resolved decades ago. I have never been sanctioned. I have never been removed. I have never run from truth, and I will not start now. Ask not why this file was leaked. Ask why it was buried until I stood still. No press conference. No tears. Just the written word, sharpened, surgical, final. Then something strange happened. The smear backfired. Online. The tone shifted hard fast. You waited 40 years to bring this up? He literally cleared every review board since. Wow. Imagine being so threatened by calm that you dig up dust and choke on it. The hashtag #AskWhyNow exploded. Students printed it on protest shirts. Artists painted it across underpasses. Church signs replaced their sermon titles with it, and in a packed news segment, an anchor stared directly into the camera and said, "If this is your final card, then you've already lost the game." At the next city council meeting, a chair sat empty. Then a second. 2 review board members resigned. The third held on until a leaked voicemail revealed his hand in requesting the file weeks earlier. By Friday, all 3 were gone. Replaced. And in their place, 1 former teacher, 1 retired paramedic, and a law student who had once written a letter to Braxton after watching his traffic stop. The final blow came unexpectedly. An op-ed in the New York Times. Title: "You tried to silence the quiet man. Now the whole country is listening." The Procan's an op-ed in the New York Times. Title: "You tried to silence the quiet man. Now the whole country is listening." Author: Justice Braxton. In his own words, "They didn't attack me when I shouted, because I never did. They didn't attack me when I lied, because I never did. They attacked when I stood too still for too long, because stillness is a mirror. And some men hate their reflection." The piece went viral. 10 million reads in 48 hours, and buried in the final line was a quiet warning. I was never the threat. I was just the reminder that truth doesn't need to yell, but once seen, it never disappears. At the courthouse, the halls filled again. Not for trials, not for protests. People just came. To sit, to breathe, to see the man who never blinked. And on the bench, Justice Braxton did what he always did. He opened the next case, reviewed the facts, and said, "Let's begin." The courthouse didn't change overnight. Its marble still cracked in places. The portraits still hung unevenly, too few black faces, too many forgotten names, but the air felt different. Bailiffs spoke softer, clerks listened longer, judges paused more. They called it the Braxton effect, not official, not documented, but real, a silent shift in posture, in presence, because everyone had seen what it looked like when justice didn't. Performance simply stood. On the first day of the new judicial term, Justice Braxton entered courtroom 2 as usual. No fanfare, no photographers. Just nods from strangers, from lawyers, from janitors who'd once been ignored in that very hallway. A new sign had been placed above the bench. "Let calm guide the room. Let truth lead the law. H.L. Braxton." He hadn't approved it, didn't even know who ordered it, but he didn't remove it. The police reform package passed 6-1. The Braxton Clause became law. Every officer required to cite specific cause before initiating a traffic stop. Every stop reviewed by an independent board. Every citizen's right to film protected by law. When asked if he would attend the signing, Braxton declined. "I don't want to be the headline," he said. "I just want to be the reason it's not needed again." A middle school in Eastwood was renamed Braxton Public Academy for Civil Reasoning. Its motto: "We don't raise voices here. We raise standards." A plaque sat outside the front entrance, engraved with the moment his ID was lifted during the stop. Underneath, "The day's silence spoke for us all. Turner resigned quietly. No press. No speech, just a form, signed and stamped, his final note. To the department was leaked weeks later. I didn't lose my job because of a video. I lost it because I finally saw what I looked like through someone else's silence. He now volunteers in a program teaching de-escalation to rookie cops. He doesn't speak Braxton's name, but his students do. An annual lecture was established. At Howard Law, the Braxton Lecture on Restraint and Power at the first one, a nervous student opened with, "Some say Justice Braxton didn't change the world. He just changed the angle we all saw it from." The room stood when she finished. Braxton wasn't there. He watched it online later alone and smiled quietly at the students' line. She understood. The final tribute came unexpectedly, a museum exhibit titled, "The Pause That Shook the Court Inside," a looped video of the traffic stop, his robe from the night of his honorary award, his handwritten court notes from the janitor's case, and in the center, the black wallet that held his ID. Lit by a single spotlight. No audio, no narration. Just stillness. People stood in front of it for minutes at a time. Some wept. Some sat down. Some just stared, absorbing what it meant to carry power. Quietly, Braxton retired 2 years later. No press tour. No book deal. He simply walked out of the courtroom one day, turned off the lights, and handed his final gavel to a clerk. He left a letter in his chambers. Don't chase moments, chase permanence. If they hear your silence years after you're gone, you did your part. HLB. A month after his retirement, a journalist caught up with him outside a library. "Do you regret not speaking more during the controversy?" she asked. He chuckled once. "You're still asking the wrong question." "What is the right one?" she asked. He turned, looked her in the eye, then said, "Why did they only start listening when I stopped talking?" And with that he walked away, not remembered as a man who won a fight, but as the man who never needed to raise his fists. Only his presence, and the world rose around him.